I just got done playing through Last of Us 1 Remake and Last of Us 2, and I really like both, except for the fact that
back when I was bitten,
Ellie seems to have
I
regressed
wasn't alone.
in a huge manner. I mean,
My best friend was there.
in the first game,
She got bit too.
she was wise beyond her years as a 14-year-old.
You didn't know what to do.
And this is the perfect example of how smart she is and how intelligent and how understanding she has of human nature and stuff. But then in part 2, she suddenly becomes this whiny teenager, and she's supposed to be an adult at 14 years of age.
I'm still waiting for my turn.
So, like, they totally screwed up her character. She was a one-dimensional character in part 2. Abby had more dimension than Ellie, and that is unfortunate. And it's also unfortunate that they killed Joel, although, I mean, I understand the storyline, it's very daring and all that, but I will have to say, The Last of Us 1 is one of the best games I've played.
Swear to me.
It's a single-player, non-open world game. I don't play a lot of those games.
Said about the Fireflies is true.
You know, my favorite game is probably like Fallout 3. But this game is really, really beautiful, and everybody should experience it. Either the original version, the remaster, or the remake. I suggest the remake because the original version, Ellie looks extremely different, and there's this whole like uncanny valley effect, like with her eyes and all that. She doesn't look. She looks like an alien with like there's this weird uncanny valley shit with Ellie in part 1, the original. But yeah, I mean, I don't get why they totally trashed her character in part 2. She was totally one-dimensional, and she was like a psychopath. As far as Abby, I think they could have developed her character more, and I think part 2 should have been more subtle. What I mean by that is they beat you over the head with the Abby sort of comparison with Joel and Ellie. Like, everything has a counterpart, everything is juxtaposed. It can't be that, you know, real life isn't that coincidental. You know, like Joel, Ellie, and the giraffe versus Abby and Jerry with the zebras. It goes down all the way to that detail of Joel collecting coins of Firefly dog tags, but they're coins, and Abby's father collects coins. I mean, that's just way, way too, like, obvious and heavy-handed, and that just exposes, like, what you're trying to do. Although I do appreciate part 2, the gameplay, everything. The open world in Seattle was a really great, you know, spot. And I think Naughty Dog, the problem I have with them is they steal, like, real actors' likenesses. They stole Nathan Fillion's likeness for Last of Us Part 2, for the Uncharted series, and they stole Ellen Page's likeness for Ellie in Part 1, and those actors should be compensated. Aside from that, their games are top-notch polish. I've read articles about the crunch and everything, but their games are Japanese level polish. You know how Japanese games, a lot of people don't play Japanese games because Japanese gamers play certain genres like turn-based RPGs and all that, but I mean, Japanese developers, maybe it's because of the work culture, maybe because they invented video games, basically, with the Nintendo, or reinvented it. They have just like the greatest attention to detail. Just look at any Capcom game, etc. Capcom was coming out with 720 60 frames per second back in 2007. That's like 16 years ago, and I'm talking about Dead Rising, one of the best zombie games, bar none. But yeah, Last of Us 1, 10 out of 10. Last of Us 2, 8.5 out of 10. Thoroughly enjoyed both. And I don't get the hate of Last of Us 2. I think it's pretty good, although, again, it's way too non-subtle. There's too much juxtaposition, and they don't flesh out Abby enough, and they turn Ellie into a whiny, one-dimensional teenager who's like a psychopath. And they kill Joel, which I fell in love with Joel in the first game and Ellie, but it was very tough to watch Joel get beaten to death. Thoroughly loved both games, bought both games out of pocket, and going into everything, I had everything already spoiled because of watching, podcasts and stuff and all the discussion online. So I knew what the story was and what was going to happen, and I still thoroughly enjoyed it. Definitely worthy of part of the top 10 games of all time for me, which includes things like Fallout 3, Red Dead Redemption 2. And that's basically it. Last of Us is awesome.